Hi, I'm Jason Jelks, Manager of Software Development for Sensory Analytics. In this video series, I will guide you through the basics of Kepware tools, how to set up a data tag, as well as how to connect the SAOPC server and/or plant PLC networks to the SpecMetrix system. To start, we must open the Kepware configuration tool. Once the Kepware configuration tool is open, we can create a new channel. A channel opens a thread of communication between a PLC or the OPC server. There are hundreds of PLCs that are available in the Kepware network, anything from Allen Bradley, Mitsubishi, Siemens. For this video, we're going to focus on the simulator, which is the OPC server. We need to give it a name, and let's call it SAOPC. We will keep the remaining screens in their default settings and complete the channel. Next, we'll create a device. A device is typically something that is connecting specifically to a PLC or into the OPC server. By default, we will call this a line name as defined in the SpecMetrix configuration. We will use default values with everything except for the respect tag specific scan rate. We've now completed setting up our connection to the SAOPC server. Now we need to create some tags. To create a new tag, we will simply click on the line name or device and then click to select a new tag item. We will type in the name of our tag, and that can be any name you want as long as it's unique for that specific group. Next, we'll need to assign which address that this tag exists in. In PLCs, this could be a tag name specific in the PLC. In the OPC server, we have different memory locations in which to configure our tag. Tags are determined based upon the data type in which they're housing data. For this example, we'll pick a double, which is a float or a real number, meaning it has a decimal. The address indicates the starting position of the value. So if it has 32 bytes, in this particular case, it would be an address of 0 up to an address of 2. The second part of choosing the address is also selecting what data type is available. Depending upon the data type will depend on how much memory location is used. As we said, we're going to use a memory type storing a value for a float. We also have a scan bit rate. We can adjust this value from 100 milliseconds to anything we want as long as it's greater than 10 milliseconds. Clicking OK, we'll save that tag, and we'll see the tag next to the line name. We'll also see the specific information for that tag. We can add another tag by right-clicking and choosing New Tag. And we can add in anything we want. In this case, we're going to add a bit or a bool, and its address we're going to manually type in to be K0004. And for a bit, you add a decimal or a period and 00 up to 15. There are 16 bytes of information because this is a 16-bit value. But we're going to define the 0 position as the bit. We'll define the data type as Boolean. And again, we'll leave the scan rate at 100. As you can see, we now have two tags. If we open up the Kepware Quick Client, we can see these two tags, their values, the last time they were set, And then we can right click and choose Synchronize Write and enter a value. And that value is actually written directly to the Kep server or the PLC, depending upon what we're connected to. For a Boolean, if we enter any value other than 0, it will automatically set to 1. Let's go ahead and close down the quick client right quick and do not save changes. Occasionally, we want to group information together. In the PLC, we would call this a UDT or user-defined data type. Right now, let's create a new tag group. Right-click on the line name, select New Tag Group, and give it a name. Effectively, we have data we call our probe data that we take readings from. And as you can see, this has created a new directory or path, which is the equivalent of like a Windows directory, and it has information. We can right-click and create a new tag. And let's say we want to store measurement data in this location. We will choose an address that we haven't used yet and that won't conflict. So we'll choose K0006 and we'll save this tag. It is important to note that if you choose an address that will overwrite or overlap other data, such as this location, we would have a conflict and there would be invalid data to be written. Just to kind of demonstrate that, we'll actually put this into a bad location. And we'll go ahead and we'll set our data internal on this value. We see it's at 23. And we'll overwrite that information with a different value here. So you got to right click and choose Synchronized Write. And we will go back and look. Okay, so the length of that word is 2. So we need to change the length of our word. So close this down for a second. Choose No. And we'll go back to our probe data. We will choose, instead of putting it at 2, we will make it a float and we'll choose 1. And I guarantee that this is going to cause a problem. So we'll go back into our OPC client and we'll look at our data value again. And we see that's the same. Now, if I overwrite and make a change into this data, as we can see, this is a float value that we're going to write. And I'll right click and choose Synchronize Write. And I'll just enter in some value here randomly. Yeah, that's good. And OK. And we'll go back. And now we'll see that our value is now incorrect. So if I change it back and I put in some other value into here, we see that this value now looks good, but we've changed our value again in this position. If we go back and we start a new value, again, putting like 100 point some other decimal, when we go back to our line 1, we see that now it's really messed up our whole process. So it's extremely important to realize and to know that if you enter the incorrect tags or you've overlapped data elements, it will cause problems with the output data. Even though it will still write, it'll cause a memory address location and cause some really strange occurrences of information in your PLC or the OPC server. We will now go ahead and close down OPC Quick Client and correct our tag so that way we don't have a conflict next time we open up. Save that. Okay. So that concludes the very basics of setting up Kepware and OPC tags and tag groups. We'll see you next time.